Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to call to order the regular Board of Selectmen meeting for October 7th. It is 5:30 p.m. and we are starting our meeting. At the table, we have Selectwoman Jude Reed, Selectman Jim Lampos, and First Selectwoman Martha Shoemaker. And we have various residents and workers from Old Lyme in the audience. So that is great. At this time, I would like to call for a moment of silence in respect to John Beisco, who was a former treasurer for the town and who passed away last week. So if we could just take a moment and reflect on John's service to the town of Old Lyme. Thank you. At this time, information items, communications, correspondence. Jim, do you have anything to report on your end?
I do not.
Okay. Jude, anything on your end?
The only thing I saw was a letter from Frank Pappalardo, which was sent to all three of us.
That's correct. And I do have that in my packet as well. He received a nice letter from Gary Gregory recommending that we appoint Matt McKenzie to the Conservation Commission tonight. We also had a letter from joint letter from the Commissioner Garrett Galato from the Department of Transportation. Also, and it was sent to both Nancy DiNardo and Ben Proto, both the chair people of the Connecticut Republican Party and the Connecticut Democratic Party, just reminding towns, et cetera, about putting signs on state roadways and what are the rules. So those have been sent, and I forwarded both this to Randy Nixon and also to Kim Thompson to remind their Democratic and Republican town committees. I had a couple of letters regarding the sewer project in various forms. But basically I heard from Jack Keene, who's not a resident, but he's vacationed here since 1963. And he believes that there's a lot of confusion about the project and asked me to call him after October 6th. I have not done so at this time. I also got a very long letter from Frank Pappalardo regarding various things about the IMA for the sewage treatment plant, and he asked us to take into consideration. I know it was sent to Jude, and I believe, Jim, you received it as well. I also heard from Rob Green, who gave us a recap of our August 28th presentation, and also his concerns with the sewer project, and he understands Connecticut Deep's issues, but also as a property owner. And I can share any of those with you if you'd like. I'll give you copies. Thomas Baer gave me a letter regarding excessive speed on Town Woods Road. Mark Mangilio wrote to us about the fact, did we really want to pave the parking lot at Soundview? Maybe we'd like to get out of the parking lot business.
It was excessive speeds on what road? Pond Road?
No, sorry, Jill. That was
Town Woods.
Town Woods.
Okay, great. Thank you.
So Mark said, I mean, there could be other things that we might be able to do with that town-owned property. And Rocco Todaro also wrote to me about a rotted tree at Miami Ave and Route 156. And I heard from two individuals on a dangerous walkway condition at the middle school, and I was very happy to forward that over to Ian.
Yeah.
Also, just for your information purposes, Eric Olson informed me today of a situation that was taken care of at the bus barn. the annual tune-up of the furnace at the bus barn last week. It was noted there were 3 repairs that were needed, a flame sensor, burner tubes, and a neutralizer. And the cost repairs for it's $855. And that comes out of the bus barn at line item. He said if we needed any more information, he would get it to us. But basically, he just scheduled the repair so that the heat will come on at that time. So before we move on to public comment, I need to tell everyone present that Harold Thompson will not be doing his presentation tonight due to an illness, and he's not with us tonight, and we will reschedule that. We also need a motion to amend the agenda for 2 items. One is on approval of minutes for September 16th. There's actually the minutes from the special meeting, the executive session, which was a very brief summary. And then there was also the regular meeting on September 16th. So we have to add the special meeting, approval of minutes, and we have to add the IMA, which I forgot to put on the agenda.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Jude. Jim,
I'll
second. Is
second.
there any discussion on either of those?
On adding those.
On adding, yeah, any
No.
discussion on adding those? Okay. Hearing none, I'll call all those in favor of adding the IMA and the special meeting minutes of September 16th to the agenda. Please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, we'll move on to public comment. Is there anyone in the audience who would like to do public comment at that time? I just wanted to check. Are you Michael?
I'm just Ryan.
Ryan, do you want to get up and speak about the situation that your dad called me about?
He's gonna be here in a few minutes. I can wait or I can.
Okay.
It's about the piece of land
Right.
that the town owns right behind the not the house I own.
Right. So, Michael Looney contacted me about some land that's for sale on Avon Street.
Yeah.
And, Ryan is here. I will tell you, you can share the map where it is so that you can both see it. And Michael has asked if this lot is possibly for sale.
Okay.
I did bring it to the attention of affordable housing because I wasn't sure this was one of the lots that they had looked at or not. Because I know they'd done some scouting of some of our available land for possible building lots.
It's all wetlands.
Well, he was checking to
Yeah.
see.
And that's all wetlands. So
Okay.
it's really. As Eric said.
But there's,
You know, but we're willing to
but there's an empty lot next to it.
get deal, you know, pay a certain amount of taxes on it a year, just because it's a area, you know, backing up to my property.
Mhm. We will continue to do some homework on this. And if it's possible that that the affordable housing does not want it, we will, be more
It's
than,
not buildable at all.
I understand that, but I still have to do my due diligence. Okay? I can't,
So we're going to go.
See if this is open.
for right now, you're sort of in a holding pattern until we can guarantee.
Sorry, son,
I'm sorry. It was very,
No.
it was designed to let the sunshine in, but it doesn't play well. So Ryan, what I'd like to do is have another month, a month into November. We are heavily scheduled in November because of our election season, which is taking a lot of our room space. So we're going to be rescheduling one of our meetings in November. But that will give time for affordable housing to weigh in. It will give time for land use to weigh in and let us know what they think. And also I have to talk to the assessor and also to the tax collector.
Yeah, the lot is so small that it's not even buildable no matter what.
Right.
And I own the lot next to it as well.
You
So
own-
it wouldn't even be possible.
So you add yeah, go ahead.
So you own the empty lot between Your house,
Yeah,
okay, so there's a lot, an empty wetlands, another lot, and then a house?
no, it's, it's more or less two wetlands lots.
And you own one of those?
Yeah.
Okay.
one Next to it, yeah,
That's the one that's like about a quarter acre.
yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
So I already, own that one, and, the one, the little piece next to it, what's it, 5,500?
Point,
Point
it's
five
0.11
something.
acres.
Yeah.
0.11. Yeah.
2,500, yeah, just a small wetland piece, that's. And I know those.
is there another house next to those two lots?
Yeah, after
Okay.
that lot, yeah, there is a
Okay.
piece, someone owns, my neighbor owns that. house
Okay.
property, Yeah,
Great, I just wanted to,
yeah, clarify, no, that's-
right, thank you.
So just so you're aware of the process, should we decide that we would be willing to sell it, we have to put it out there for the public to know that we're willing to sell it and for what price. And then it would have to be accepted for sale at a town meeting. So we have our upcoming town meeting in January, and it would be put on the agenda for that.
Okay,
Okay, the town has to approve the sale.
okay,
Okay,
yeah.
so you can tell your dad that, and if he wants to call me, I'm more than happy to walk him through the timeline.
Okay, what's your name?
Martha Shoemaker.
Okay, cool.
Okay,
All right,
What's his name?
his name is Looney, Ryan Looney, Looney. From Avon, it's Avon Street,
Avon Street, I know.
Avon Avenue. It's wrong on James. Okay, so is this your dad?
Oh. Yeah.
Yes.
You just went over, sure.
Mr. Looney, I just want you to know that we have to do our due diligence. So affordable housing and the land use coordinator are just looking at the property. If affordable housing has no need for it, then what it would be done is we would, in a November meeting, say that we were willing to possibly sell it for a price. We can negotiate. And then at our town meeting in November, in January, we would have it up for sale for you. And as long as nobody opposed, you would be able to buy it. Okay, so that's where we,
Understand.
okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Thanks for coming after the game.
It was close. Unfortunately, all my lost.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is there any other public comment? Okay, hearing no other public comment. Anyone on the phone for public comment? Anyone on the phone for public comment? Going once? Going twice? Okay, nobody? Okay, so we're moving on. To our approval of minutes, and we had the minutes, the special minutes. Let's do those first. Those were pretty short and sweet. Does anyone have any changes to the special minutes?
No,
I do not.
Okay, can I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the special Board of Selectmen meeting on September 16th, 2024.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you both. I'll call for a vote. All those to approve the special meeting minutes of September 16th, 2024, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none. Motion passes. Next one is for our regular meeting minutes on September 16th. And I know you both had some time to review these earlier. Changes were made, spelling corrections, I believe, were all intact for people's last names. And I believe you were sent these as well. Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do we have a motion on the floor to accept the regular meeting minutes of September 16th?
I'll make a motion to accept the regular meeting minutes of September 16th.
I'll second.
Okay. Hearing no concerns, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor of approving minutes of our regular meeting on September 16th, 2024, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All the abstentions? Okay. Motion passes. All right. we are skipping our presentation and we're moving on to our electronic payments. And Anita, is that you on the phone? I was thinking it was the 203 number. I'm not sure. Okay, I have a handout for both of you, and I will explain it the best of my ability. All right. So Anita wanted to be online to provide this, and if she jumps on later, we can have any questions. But basically, at our currently, we're using a company called Pfizer through the Webster Bank, which charges anyone who pays their taxes online 3% if they use a credit card, 3% if they use a debit card, and they charge them 50 cents for an e-check. Although that rate is going to be going up to 95 cents next year. So they looked for a different way to go about this. And Suzanne Thompson had done some work with some of the other towns in the area to see what they use. And they use a company called Point and Pay.
A question before you proceed.
Yep.
You were saying currently Webster, it's 3%, it's 50 cents. Is it Webster that's going up to 95 cents?
Yes.
Or are you saying, okay,
Yeah, if you look here, she's got a sentence, the ACH fees will go
Okay.
from 50 to 95.
got it.
Okay. And so if we switch to Point and Pay, we would be saving some money for our residents at 2.5% for a credit card payment, which is a little, not a lot, but it's a little. And then if they use a debit card, it's only 1% fee. And their e-check fees are 95 cents if they go to an ACH transaction. So Anita and Suzanne are both recommending that we move to this. And
Can you hear
They-
me?
are you there?
Yeah, I was here. I kept on saying hello, 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 and
We hear you.
you couldn't hear me.
We
So,
could-
no,
we could-
that was me. Sorry, I muted you, Anita.
Sorry, Anita.
I was
If you,
no problem because I muted me on my phone, but I was like I thought it was my phone.
Okay,
it's okay. Do you
So-
have do you want to say anything else? You've heard kind of how I led into it.
I did not. So I was calling back. I had to call
I have
back
a
because
question.
I didn't know what happened. Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
So Jude has a question for you.
sure.
Hi, Anita. So it's the first rate is for using your credit card as a credit card. The second line, are we talking about using a debit card? It says debit
Yes.
tax. Okay, so
Yeah,
it's
well,
debit card.
it's for the tax department, so they
Okay,
called it debit tax.
Okay, but it's credit card tax payment, debit card tax. Okay, got
Right.
it. Thank you.
I wanted to word it the exact same way they worded it on their email to me.
I needed it for my clarification. Thank you, Anita.
You're welcome.
Is there anything else that you wanted to say about Point and Pay?
No, again, Suzanne has talked to other towns. They like it. It's a lot easier system to use, and plus the fees are a lot less for the town people.
Okay, and then our second one.
The-
Anita, do you want us to vote on these separately? We probably should.
Okay.
So we're just voting to acknowledge that we are totally aware of this and moving forward. They've done their homework and feel that this will be a better option for us moving forward.
Can I just ask Anita a quick question?
Sure.
Anita, with Fiserv through Webster, is there
Yes.
any advantage, and I assume our account is with Webster, that would be credited if we do credit card transaction through Fiserv?
No, because basically
No.
the credit card transaction is basically the customer is paying the fee. We are not paying any fees. Point and Pay also said no implementation fees. There's no monthly fees, no annual fees. The same thing with Webster. We don't pay any fees. It's a relationship Webster has with the other company that they use. It's just a relationship that they have. But it's basically, the part is when they did some merger recently, they changed the way that Suzanne has to download and go and get these files to upload them into the QDS system. When she was at a couple conferences, she started talking to other people, and other towns use Point and Pay. I do have experience with Point and Pay because I've used it in the past. We scheduled a meeting. We talked to them. Suzanne likes the product they offered us, and this is their rates, lower rates for people using their service. And Suzanne would like to move to them.
Well, I guess my question was
No.
more, we do have a relationship with Webster Bank.
Right.
That's a bank account relationship, correct?
Yes, and the same thing,
Okay.
Point and Pay will just deposit it into our bank account. We
Right.
just give them the routing number, and it goes right into our bank account.
So my question is, just to pose a theoretical, suppose we have a transaction that ends up getting canceled, that would incur a 3% fee or 2.5% fee, whatever it may be, that one of the credit card company would charge us for that transaction. And if it's taxes, it could be a large transaction. Do we have any advantage by keeping it within the Webster family, where the bank manager could advocate for us with credit card company, rather than going to Point and Pay, where we would be on our own and advocating for reversal of the fee?
In all the years I've worked with Point and Pay, there was never a fee charge. So as far as Webster, the fees are charged by the outside company, not from Webster. It's all it is someone that they use. I've not, the whole time being in a line, we've never seen a charge on the credit card. So I can go back and ask those questions, but I've never seen a fee, or in any of the paperwork I have, the backup documentation to Positive Pay, I don't see any place that they stated that if someone bounces that there will be a fee to us.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I guess maybe I'm beating a dead horse, but I guess my question is, if someone pays us, for example, say they
Right.
double pay us, right? They double pay us, say their tax round number is $10,000. So there's a $10,000 charge that needs to be reversed. And we pay 2.5% on that because they're paying us. We don't pay it to the bank, but it's built in the charge that the credit card company would take. They would take 2.5% of that transaction.
And it's
They added
it's
to it.
never, and that is not billed to us. That is billed directly to the customer. We have nothing to do with any of the fees.
So when a customer pays, we don't,
I
when they
use-
pay us, we don't give up 2.5% of that payment to the credit card company as a
No.
processing fee?
The fee is charged directly to the customer. As someone
Okay.
comes into, as if you went to, it's not like with a restaurant, you pay the fee. This is all customer based. The town pays no fees. The town is not responsible for any fees. It's all customer based fees.
All right. Thank you.
Anita, I
Well-
have one more question. Is that with Point and Pay, do the funds hit our Webster bank account with a delay? Is it slower than using the Webster service? Is there a lag time?
I normally you get the pay within about 24 to 48 hours, and I would have to do more research to answer that question, because I didn't look at that part.
Anita, do you also want to just briefly tell Jim and Jude about the new program through Webster with the daily checks and cash? that when they're deposited, how it's going to go in this now instead of waiting for
Okay.
them?
We also have a couple of other things on the agenda that we're looking into. And one of them that we did start was in the months of January, July, and August, we're going to do lockbox. What lockbox is basically Webster takes our payments and they will put them into the system, and then they just send us a file and we upload into, and it's done by Webster, no outside company. It's done directly by, and it's part of the fee. We're trying to eliminate Brinks because Brinks, because of lack of drivers, they have not been coming regularly. So this is holding up our deposits. Tom from the tax department has been going to the bank to make deposits. I've also gone. We're also looking, and we're in the process of getting check processing equipment. And this will, what it will be is in the tax office and in the finance office for our deposits. Any checks will go through a check machine, and the image will go directly to them, and we'll never have to deposit that. We'll only have to deposit cash in the future.
Started.
Okay, I'd just like to add that Anita and Tom, when they've gone to the bank, have been escorted by a police officer. They're not,
Of
they
course.
go they go in a police car. They don't go by themselves.
I thought we had already started that check scanning to deposit already. I didn't
check-
realize it
this-
hadn't started.
The scanning is different with the eyeball that Tom has, but it doesn't take it directly to the bank. It's more for our QDS system.
Oh.
So it's recorded.
Anita, am I correct then that you will hold the checks for whatever the designated time is, and then they will be disposed of from here? They never make, the
Correct.
actual check never goes to the bank, correct? Okay.
Correct. And at the time, you have to hold them for so many years, and then you
Right.
shred them. And we
Exactly.
have the shredding service. Correct.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So are we ready to consider approving them moving to the point and pay system? Or would you like more time to,
I think based on the fact that Anita is happy with it and has used it before, and if it's 24 to 48 hours, I'm fine with that on the hitting our account. But as far as the things we just discussed, that is not included in this. The check scanning.
right, that's
Okay,
different.
great.
No,
Okay,
that's a totally separate, so is lockbox.
okay.
Is there one of you'd like to make a motion to approve them going from the Fiserv at Webster to point and pay?
I'll make the motion to switch to point and pay from Fiserv for the tax department credit card.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of the tax department moving to point and pay from the Fiserv system through Webster Bank, please signify by saying aye.
Bye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Our other item through Anita and requires the transfer station. Currently, our transfer station has no credit card system. It has only cash or check. And the current software that is used for the weighing at the transfer station is called SMS Turbo Software. They have actually a software component, and they will give us 2 credit card machines at $400 each. So that'd be $800 plus shipping, sorry. And they would give Donnie 2 credit card machines so that he would, one I believe is portable and one is at his station. And he would be able to accept credit card payments. So we've already had $2,000 allocated in the IT fund budget for the implementation of this project, which was brought up last year and was put into the fiscal year 23-24 budget. So we would like to move ahead with that. Anita will have more information if you need any questions for Anita.
My question is about training. I see it includes 2 credit card machines. How much training does it offer? Do we know?
Yes, the the company, I spoke to them directly, and I spoke to
Mhm.
their sales rep. They will give the training. It's going to be more like an online type training, but they will give training. It's Don, the transfer station. Everything will be processed exactly the same. What they're going to do is upgrade the software. So the software now, instead of entering cash or check, it will have the option that the credit card payment will go right into the system. So it's not like that's why we had to use them. If we use a different provider for a credit card, the software would not accept it. So we have, they're basically the only, you have to use them. So they're going to do the training with him. There's a customer support number that he would call as if anything else happened with his system. And they're available whenever that is needed, and any additional help, they'll walk them through it.
So it's the same software that he's using now.
Correct.
Okay,
But they'll do the upgrade to the software to accept the credit card. If we went
Got it.
with an outside, the system would not accept the credit card. It would have to be done separately.
okay.
Okay, so right away, I'm going to red flag 2 things. One, as far as training, it has to be more than just Don.
Thank
Bobby
you.
has to be done as well. And I would like
Oh, yeah,
you
no,
or
no, it's transfer. Yeah. Sorry.
I want you or Tracy to be there while they're training, because I know that Don has a lot of questions about technology, and
Okay.
he needs to have someone there who's going to know the steps so that he can have someone local. If it's 7:30 in the morning on a Saturday, he forgets something, he's going to need a contact here, not be calling a help desk for SMS software. So,
Okay.
and not only that, Anita, but we always need to be able to pivot. So if we have someone else take over the transfer station in 3 years, 5 years, whatever, we need to know how to use it so that we can get them trained ourselves.
We will not make it credit card exclusive, correct?
No,
It will
no.
still remain
No.
that he can take cash and checks.
Right.
Cash, check, or credit card. It'll be the option of all 3.
Okay, credit/debit.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay, any other further questions? Hearing none, I need a motion to accept that with transfer station would go to the upgraded software for SMS Turbo software, and so that they could begin receiving credit card payments over this, I would assume over the summer by the time, or
I'll make that motion with the conditions that were stated.
Correct.
okay, condition.
I will second.
Okay, any other further discussion? Hearing none, we'll call for a vote. All those in favor of approving the transfer station new payment method for credit card signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Okay, next up, we have some guests from Harbor
Thank you.
Management. Thank you.
Bye, Anita.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anita.
Harbor
Thank you.
Management, we have Michael Presti. Are you 2 coming to the table? No.
Setting you up here all by my loads.
There you go, Mike.
Thank you. Good to see everyone.
Aye.
I printed out what I'm going to be presenting, just so you
Thank you.
for your own notes.
This
and
is special meeting. Seeing you have a few harbor management people.
I think
Thank
we've
you,
been.
Mike.
Mike, here's another one.
I got extra. There you have it. And then everyone else was like,
Hmm.
all right, good evening, everyone. I just want to give you guys some flying information and also a request. We early on, over the last few months, and especially this busy summer, identified a need to increase response time for on-water assets, specifically our harbor master boat and our fire boat and our fire rescue boat. And at that time, a ship grant was released through the Small Harbor Improvement Program that offered this funding to be granted to us. So the narrative is this. The HMC submitted a SHIP grant last July for $280,000 to update and expand our municipal pier on the Connecticut River for our town boats. That's right by Deep, right there, if you look to the north of Deep. Okay. Request a waiver for the 20% town cost share because this appropriation was off budget for the fiscal year. The actual SHIP grant was dropped in the spring. Obviously, we didn't have time to actually allocate this funds because it wasn't available. After speaking with Eric Dussault from the Connecticut Port Authority yesterday, he informed me that the waiver is not likely to be approved. Thus, the SHIP grant would not be approved for $280,000 without some sort of financial actual commitment from the town. He said the 20% cost share, approximately $56,000 for the project. We have already advanced approximately $4,500 from the HMC for permitting and survey work, leaving about $51,000 remaining. Our request, the HMC's co-chairs are requesting a formal monetary commitment to this project for submission to the Connecticut Port Authority to support the SHIP grant requirement. The HMC, Harbor Management Commission, will agree to a cost share to be discussed from our account over a several-year period. We propose committing to covering 50% of the town cost share from the HMC budget over a 4-year period. Starting next fiscal year, this equates to approximately $7,000 a year over a 4-year period. The remaining $24,000 will be either achieved through line item expenditures in future budgets or through revenue generating renting of slips once the town piers are installed or if approved. Currently, through the HMC, we bring in approximately $15K per year in revenue through our moorings. We do have expenses, obviously. Also, our current what's in our coffers now is about $38,000. So we are very liquid. It's just we're trying to figure out how to allocate the funds over a several period and how to secure this $280,000 grant with minimal impact to the town. So I guess that's kind of where we're at right now. Again, speaking with Mr. Dussault, he said it's likely to be approved if some financial commitment is exhibited from the town for the 20% cost share.
When does he need that commitment?
He would need that. They meet on the 15th, but he would like that by early next week. So a week from today, approximately. Yeah.
The 14th.
14th, correct. Yeah. So that's it. That's kind of where he's at with it. I know it's rushed and
So are you asking for us to make a promise that we will include it in our upcoming budgets?
I think that's exactly correct. That we will budget for it. This grant will not be issued in any time before our next budget season.
And
All right.
when will it be issued again, or do we?
So the way the process works, it's been explained to me by Mr. Salt at the Connecticut Port
Mhm.
Authority, is that once they approve it in their October meeting, they put it up to the State Bond Commission. That is headed by the governor, and that is met, and they meet, I want to say, after the first of the year. Okay, and then they will approve all the allocation of the grant to us once the recommendation is taken from the Port Authority, if approved.
Is that allocation likely to happen after June 30th, 2025?
That I do not, I can't.
Usually if they're doing, my understanding, and this grant may be different, but I would assume usually it comes out in the next fiscal year.
Okay, that's what
So
I'm getting at,
they're-
so the next fiscal
So
year.
they're also
Mm.
working on into the next fiscal year.
Okay. What, the $280,000 grant, is there a time limit on when it has to be used? I mean, is it a 3-year project? Is it open-ended?
So it's open and yeah, they didn't, through the grant writing process and through the requirements, I did not see any time requirements written into the grant proposal.
Is it distributed lump sum or over a number of years?
It's over through reimbursement, from what I understand.
Okay, it's what?
Reimbursement. So
Reimbursement.
basically, as they spend the money,
You have to spend the 280,000 in order to get the 280,000. Okay, I wasn't clear on that.
Michael, do you see this as a discrete project? In other words, we get, we allocate this money or we pledge this money, the 20%, it triggers the grant.
Correct.
Do you see a discrete project where you would spend that money all at once on an upgrade?
Yeah, so the
Or is it
project-
like piecemeal.
Mm.
No, I would like to get it, to be completed all at once. So when the pier is built out, that's something that's just not achievable just by one piece or new piece. It has to be engineered and it'll be installed all at one time. So it would be a single line item once the contract is approved.
This would happen fairly quickly.
Yeah.
Yes, that's the idea.
Is it enough money to see this project beginning to end, or are we going to be taking on another $50,000 or $100,000 to complete?
When we wrote the grant and we used industries, we requested some help. Obviously, I don't buy piers quite often, so. No, so
But you have
we use
people
industry,
who
we
experience.
talked to people through the marina industry and said, what would be a reasonable cost plus at least 20% on top of that to build out the pier. And the pier, as you can see, is on the back side of that sheet I gave you. If you look at the plan, that's what it would look like.
I
Okay.
wondered what it was going to look.
Yeah, that's the imagery of the pier, the envision. So it's not, we're not building in a whole marina. It's not gonna look
No,
like, you know,
no.
something extended. This is just the slips to be added to our existing pilings. And we did it with the idea that we didn't have to drill too many extra pilings. It's gonna build off existing infrastructure that's there.
Got it.
Are there any issues with the Amtrak track project as far as what you're going to be able to do in the river at the same time that they're doing? Any
So-
conflict?
I don't see any, there's no conflict with the same footprint. However, slips are no longer available within the deep footprint that they'll be using. So our boats are not going to have the same access as they had previous years, I think, for moorings and for dockage.
But as far as this spot
That
and
footprint.
adding that, I drove down there a couple of times to see, and you look pretty separate from the Herb Chambers Old Lime Dock Company
It is,
and the deep property.
right? You can see the Herb Chambers where it ends right there and then where build out. So we decided not to go further back because of shoaling. We tried not to go impede upon the channel. It's just extending out a little further, obviously,
Into the river.
into the river, just ever so slightly.
Will they be happy with a commitment for us to include it in the upcoming budget?
Absolutely. That's what's been communicated to me by Mr. Dussault, who's on the committee.
Not a letter saying we have put aside right now $1,000, and we are holding that as a
That
commitment
is
for this
correct.
project. But a letter saying that we will include it in our budget planning for the upcoming year.
My final question would be, I mean, this is really, really well thought through and, thorough, so I really appreciate that. And you've been very thoughtful with the financing, the funding going forward through the harbor management budget. Do you see that it could possibly have any negative impact on other projects that harbor management might have if funds are allocated to this?
So this has been identified at Harbor as our next place that we wanted to work on. So Pilgrim Landing has been achieved, what we wanted to do there, and with the help of the town, very little budget. Now we're looking at actually a bigger project, and this is our main one we've talked about over the last few years. So there's nothing else out there, I think, that we want to achieve, with the exception of I want to say
That's survey projects?
Horseneck Creek. I want to use the right term. Horseneck Creek. So that's the only other expenditure, but we've already budgeted for that.
Isn't it on harbor management radar to survey all the areas that, well,
This is one of
this is one of them.
Yeah.
Will it slow down any of the other ones?
It shall not.
I see no harm and a lot of benefit, as long as we can't allocate anything over $20,000 anyway. I'm in favor of it.
I'm in favor of the project. I'm just thinking I think we also have to get the Board of Finance to do
Absolutely.
an emergency meeting. Because they're going to need, and I will need you to come
We'll
back,
need their
Um,
endorsement.
but I'm looking, you need it on the 14th, so it's the week from today.
Today is Monday, right?
As well as I think the notes or the minutes from today's meeting will be a good starting point. And again, Eric is an advocate of us. Mr. Dussault is an advocate of us. He lives in Saybrook. He sees the need for the river. We're stuck at the two ends of two Coast Guard stations. The tragedy that happened over Labor Day weekend, our harbor master was second boat on scene. And our fireboat would have been a lot sooner if they had the access to this. So I think he sees it and he's pushing it. He just said, I can't go empty handed is what he's saying.
Well, plus there may be more need as
Mhm.
this building project for the railroad. Train bridge goes on, because there's going to be a lot of activity out there.
Okay, so if we want to do a motion on this, it will have to be to include the Board of Finance.
Correct.
We will have to call them immediately after this meeting to see if they can put together, that would be they would need 48 hours to,
So
so
that's Wednesday night,
it would
Thursday.
Thursday night,
Thursday.
most likely. And in the meantime, get a draft of this letter drawn up, so that we would have it ready to go. So we would need a motion to, approve the request based on the harbor management presentation today, as stated on their paperwork dated 10/7. And we will be passing this to the Board of Finance for their approval as well.
We are not making a request for funds. We're
Right.
making a request for
For
the
the-
process to commit during the budget season.
Correct.
I'd like to make a motion to approve 56,000, sending it to the Board of Finance for their consideration.
I'll second.
Okay. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none, call for a vote. All those in favor of the motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Somebody remind me to call BJ as soon as.
Appreciate your time and
I'll
consideration.
send you a text right now.
Okay. So now we're moving on to 7C, which is our registrars of voters. They're here to visit us as we get ready for voting season. Just make sure that you grab the mic.
Hi, ladies.
Hello. Would you like to tell us?
Tell us how fun.
Give us an
the-
update.
Yeah, when does early voting begin? Let's start there.
October 21st,
Okay.
14 days straight, including 2 weekends,
How many hours a day?
8 hours a day for 12 of the 14 days, and 2 of the days are 12 hours each,
Great.
for a total of 120 hours.
Times how much money?
But it depends, we have to pay
Right.
different payers and moderators. But we're here tonight to talk about the registrars.
Starting with you guys.
Right.
Okay.
So this year, this calendar year, we will be looking at 216 additional hours that we are working. Back when we prepared a budget with former First Selectman Tim Griswold, we weren't sure when early voting would commence. And we did add in an hourly amount for registrars to be paid.
Is that per person, 216 hours or collective?
Collective.
Okay.
108 each.
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay, that's what I'm. Okay.
And that's from, this is an additional presidential preference primary year. We have, it's a presidential year, which gives us an extra primary. And then we have the August primary. which
Is
was-
that part of those 108 hours?
Yeah.
No, it's 216.
Right.
So there were 32 hours in April, 64 hours in August, and 120 in October, November.
Okay.
So it gets more each election.
Right.
Right, of course.
So I have reached out to Rovac and spoken with a number of other registrars in smaller towns. And the way that they are compensating for the extra hours is they are paying the registrars an hourly rate for the time worked during early voting, not for the election, just for the time during early voting. The other thing with us working during early voting, not being paid, we did not put in a lot of hours. It's all been a little bit subjective because we just received the handbook from the Secretary of State's office, making suggestions on early voting. We did not work, so we didn't have same day registration, which will be added to this early
Right.
voting, which will require a registrar only to
So,
register
Just to
someone.
clarify, in the past, you could do election day registration, and that was only on election day.
Mhm.
And we would handle that here at the town hall. Early voting 14 days in advance of this election. Early election day registration is called same day registration, and it
Right.
has to be
So it's every
available
day.
each of the 14 days of early voting and all day on election day. So it's expanding what we need to do, and there is no election day registration or same day registration for a primary. So this is different now for a general election that we need to be available.
Mhm.
How many people are going to come during that 216 hours or 120 hours? We don't know because it's the first time we're offering it, or the first time it's being offered. Let me put it to you that way.
To what degree do you have to be physically present?
There needs to be a person,
A registrar
One of the two of you,
has to be there.
not a deputy.
we can do a deputy or an assistant.
Okay.
But if we work at early voting, which will be located right here in this room, we can also step up and do other things.
Jen and I
during
can
the
wear
time.
multiple hats.
Yeah,
So we would probably have to hire 2 or 3 poll workers to do what we can do, including same day registration. Just because we're so familiar with the whole system and can do it with our eyes closed. Also, anyone that we do make a deputy or an assistant, it requires a bit of training, computer training with the Connecticut voter registration system software, which they have
Do
to.
we have assistants and deputies now that are
We
trained?
each have a deputy,
Okay.
which we're mandated to have by statute.
Okay,
Mhm.
and they're trained for this?
Yes, they're well trained and they're helping us out tremendously in the office.
Mhm.
Assistant registrar is different. We can appoint assistant registrars, but they're not trained in the same way that we are, or that even our deputies are.
And we have found in the past, we're a little bit protective over the CVRS system. In the past, there have been a lot of hands in the system and we've ended up with a lot of duplicate voters. Our voter registration numbers have crept up over the past few years. We have to, so we're now at 6,100 and just remember that 8,000 triggers, we have to double our budget and go to 2 polling places, which would change things.
Significant cost, right?
Right. And we would probably have to have 4 deputies and,
Are those 6,100 verified and not duplicates?
Yes.
Okay,
And
and not dead or relocated? I mean, they're,
we're
Well, we-
updating the
we-
system every day.
we stay on top of that because of keeping our numbers where they need to be. But in the past, we've had people really just through not understanding the system. When someone applies through DMV and, you know, here's the voter right here, but maybe something little has changed. And, you know, Jen and I are confident saying no action required because we know that that's actually Kathy Carter, even though she's, you know, she's putting in now as Kathy Carter, but when she moved here 20 years ago, she had Catherine Quine Carter. And many people, they just click new voter and, you know, now we have a new voter in it. And when that happens, it takes us a bit of time for it to catch up where we realize that.
Additionally, same day registration, it's depends on how the person is coming to us. So if they haven't registered already, they're brand new, they've never registered in Connecticut. That's easy. We register them and they vote using a same day registration ballot. But if they've come from another town, they moved from Branford to Old Lyme, we have to call Branford and ensure that they haven't already voted in Branford. So there's a process that's more than just entering information into the computer as well. So
And then once you talk to Branford and they vote here,
Mhm.
does Branford become aware that they have already
Yes.
voted? Okay.
But sometimes that we're a small town, whereas bigger towns, we might be the person answering the phone has to call or drive to another location to verify that the
that
person
haven't voted.
has or hasn't voted. So,
multiple districts in their town.
right. So often you're juggling a number of phone calls, waiting for different towns to call back to confirm.
Or
different
answering the
people.
phone if someone's calling us with a question or the request.
So what are you, I mean,
So
you're
we're paid-
asking to be compensated for
we're
that
paid by
time.
stipend, and we're asking to be compensated for the early voting separately from the stipend.
Which we did budget for.
So an hourly rate.
Mhm.
And have you calculated out what that would,
Yes, for 120 hours, we've got, did we decide $3,600?
each?
No, 3,600 total.
Okay.
That's what we're trying to keep straight here is because there's 2 of you. We want to
Well,
make sure we're not.
Because we don't know, I mean.
Who's going to work on what day?
Who's gonna, I mean,
Got
Jen, we're lucky where we work very well together and there's
Yep.
not, you know,
Yep.
a difference between political parties. So there are a lot of towns that actually have to have a Republican and a Democrat working at the same time
Got it.
because they don't communicate with each other. Whereas Jen and I are texting, calling, working together.
Bouncing ideas off of each other.
Exactly.
And what did that turn out to? 120 hours at 30 an hour?
Oh, you did that math in your head, Jude.
That was a tough one.
Okay, so you're asking us to pay you for the additional hours with a cap of $3,600.
Yeah.
And this is,
It's already in our budget.
it's already in your budget. So we,
I have no problem with it. I don't like working and not being paid.
Right.
So,
And it's one thing if it was 2 or 3 days here or there, but 14 days straight, weekends included, gets a little bit.
I think most towns in the state have
You
been
cannot-
caught off guard with planning and how it's actually physically going to work as well as compensating people. And unfortunately, I don't like unfunded mandates, but I feel like this is what we got.
well, I have spoken to Jen and Kathy and both said, I hope you're keeping track of all the money that we're spending because after this is over, we are writing a letter to the Secretary of State's office to let her know how much money we have
Mhm.
spent here for the
And-
amount of people that have come in for early voting.
And to our legislators.
Yes.
And maybe this isn't a question for you, but it's a question for us. To what degree are we going to need extra security for
We
this
have,
process?
We've discussed it.
we've discussed it. We have a plan. We've
Yeah.
been through training. We,
Yeah, I just saw that.
the state emergency management plan put us through training
Last
earlier this
month.
year.
And there's a cost associated with that
Yes,
as well. So-
right, which is not their overhead, but ours, correct?
Well, it was everybody that came to the training basically was taken off their job, including, I was, John Measham was
If you
here.
need additional
as well.
police force or anything like that, people checking. As well
But
as
setting
extra
us up
coffee.
for every additional, Dave, Roberge just went to Hartford the other day to pick up Narcan because of threat of
Mhm.
perhaps something being slipped into an absentee ballot. So
Got it.
we are trying to cover every base that we can think of.
Well, keep track of all those costs when we complain to the state, Secretary of State and the legislators.
Well, and also having early voting 8 to 8 on Halloween.
Yeah, I wanted to mention that.
Oh, well,
8 to 8 on
So-
Halloween.
Yeah, that's-
We will be keeping the doors locked.
I would hope so, and not letting people in here without, in costumes and,
No, entrance will only be from the rear. It will be clearly stated out front. We will have a greeter down by the door that will.
lights will be on out back.
Lights will be on. We will,
Designated parking for
Yep.
voters only.
we
No
will,
candy available in front of the town hall through any group is what I would
It's all
expect.
set, Mike.
and the greeter downstairs will direct them to the elevator, come up the elevator. So they'll, or no, because it's going to be
It's gonna be on
in
the
here.
first
It's
floor,
going
so
to be
they
in
can
here.
take the stairs or the elevator.
Right.
As they
Got
prefer.
it. Okay.
Okay, so
And that only happens because Halloween is on the Thursday before the election. Halloween next year will be a Friday, and it won't be a presidential election next year either.
No, it'll
So
be a town
it'll be
election.
municipal, but then we have a good turnout for those as well. So
Yeah,
we have to think about these things.
and
it'll be in the budget planning for next year.
Here, to what degree do you have issues with, since we're a seasonal town and people tend to sometimes bounce their registrations
Yeah.
around? I'm from West Hartford, but
Just
hey,
did
I'm
them
gonna
today.
go line this time around.
They're allowed to do
Exactly.
that if they change their registration.
Right. Is-
Depending on what they want to vote on in town.
We kind of know who they are.
You
And
can look up
it's
their
kind of the
address
same
change
ones.
history and see.
And yeah,
It's
that,
the
and we,
advantage of just having experience, I suppose.
Yeah.
you know, we know that certain people, oh, here they come. It's a municipal election. They're changing their, but actually many of them change it back to their
Right.
inland town for municipals. For some reason, they vote here for presidentials. I don't know. why.
It varies.
It
by
depends on what
person.
they.
And of course, what
involved in.
the hot topic is. Right. But we're lucky being a small town that we know people, we can track, you know, I don't say
Yeah.
track.
And we pick
people,
up the phone and call the registrars in the other towns if we have a
Mhm.
question or they have a question for us. We communicate.
Okay.
Okay, so can I have a motion to allow, to pay our registrar of voters, an hourly rate that they've already budgeted for up to a cap of $3,600 during our early voting
Timeframe.
timeframe?
I'll make that motion unless Jim wants to.
Oh, no, you can make it. I'll second.
Okay.
Okay,
We're
two,
all set.
Jim? Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll see you on the 21st, right here.
I will see you for early voting, so at least I'll get some use out of it.
Yes.
Crazy.
The next thing up on the agenda is, our request from the land use department to add a copy fee to their schedule. So I provided you a draft
Yes, you did.
copy,
I'm good.
and at the bottom, it
Mhm.
was 50 cents per page. And I'll just tell you, the reason this came about is that they had two gentlemen that showed up on the same day, both requesting paperwork that was in excess of 20 to 25 pages. And they said, we're using our time, our
Mhm.
copier.
Yep.
And we do get charged for copies
The
over
click
so
charge.
many.
Yep.
So, they said they called, Craig Benatti went on, he called around, he got the average, and this is what he felt was appropriate. $5 for the larger copies. Sometimes those are from microfiche as well. So can I have a motion to approve the request to add copies to their fee schedule?
I'll make the motion to approve the request to add copies to the fee schedule.
I'll second.
Okay, any further discussion? Hearing none, call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Next one up is, sorry, I thought this was all together. Oh, it is.
You sent it to us.
Next one
Yeah.
is just also the approval for our minute. I'm way ahead of the game on these.
Yeah, meetings.
Meeting schedule.
Mhm.
These are all Mondays. And we've moved the schedule around so that we avoid holidays, et
Can I
cetera.
look at the November date
Sure.
there because I see 3rd. I'm a little confused. Our November is on the agenda. Is this for 24 or 25?
Oh, you're right. That's call it. It's for this November.
It's for 2024, and that's
Yes,
why I'm
sorry.
confused. Okay.
Sorry. Thank you.
Yep.
I did not pick that up. I was typing too fast on Friday.
Okay.
Okay, so yes, this one is November 3rd, and this stays as is.
My only consideration is when is election day in 2025?
Second Tuesday of, first Tuesday of the month after whatever it is.
Which after the first Monday, and what is it? Do we know?
The 4th? The 4th. Second Tuesday?
It's gonna be the 7th. It's the
Okay.
Second Tuesday, oh no, it's first Tuesday after the
First Monday,
so it's October, no, that's
November what?
4th.
So that'll come into play with the same way as this year. We'll have to see, first of all, a lot of things could happen. We could have, we may find different rooms, whatever, because every year, and Kathy and Jen, correct me if I'm wrong, you have to send in the plan of where you're going to be voting in town hall. So once we have some more information going forward, that particular meeting may have to be rescheduled, as this one is on November 4th of this year because of the voting in this particular building.
Okay, so the only reason we would consider rescheduling is a voting in the building. My question is, do we consider rescheduling this to a week later or a week before, considering it's the day before the election?
I think the problem is the next date is on the 10th, and that will be Veterans Day.
Well, we've done Tuesday dates.
We were trying to avoid the Tuesdays.
Unless we have a particularly controversial meeting, I assume we could have it upstairs in the conference room.
Yeah, we could.
Okay, I just meant because many times there's so many other activities going on, especially if the three of us
Actually,
is on a balance the
Actually,
next
if
morning.
we schedule it we'd have to have it very small. We might have to have it in the American Legion room. But if we
Can
schedule
be
it
quick.
small, I mean, advance notice, we'll be able to tell everyone this is going to be in a small room. 2, because at this point, there isn't, for our November 4th meeting of this year, there are no rooms available for us.
Okay, and that is the reason.
That's the reason
Okay.
that we need to.
Right. As long as we know we can reschedule a date given adequate notice.
Yes, we can.
Okay,
As long
thank you.
as, and what it becomes a special meeting. If we take off this calendar, cancel November 3rd, make a new date, it just becomes what is called a special meeting because it wasn't on our original plan.
But then they do need notice for canceling, correct? We can't do it that morning.
No, we can't usually, oh yeah, you can cancel in the morning of.
Okay.
That happens with a meeting. I mean, things
Okay.
happen, people are sick or
Okay.
we can't have a quorum. So can I have a motion to approve the approval of the Board of Selectmen meetings for 2025?
I'll make a motion to approve the 2025 calendar for the Board of Selectmen.
Well, second.
Seconds, thank you. If there's no further discussion, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor
Aye.
signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. Thank you both very much on that. Now, a holiday schedule for 2025 is out. If we approve this, we do need signatures on this page. So this was also sent to you in advance so that you'd be aware.
Yes.
Are there any questions here?
I don't think we can move any of the holidays. My question was, or confirmation is the day after Christmas and New Year's. New Year's Day, Christmas Day are on Thursdays. It is not an automatic paid holiday the day after, correct?
We went through this with HR and with, they were Sundays, definitely be. There would be, if it.
The day after Thanksgiving, yes, but the two additional holidays aren't going to be added just because Juneteenth is on a Thursday and Christmas and New Year's Day are Thursdays.
Yeah.
Okay, just wanted to
I'm sure,
clarify.
and that's the other thing is that we talked to the staff about managers, especially that you can't all be out. You've got to
Right.
balance. People have to be here.
And if
so-
they're not here, do we have a policy that if you do not work the day before or the day after a holiday, you do or don't receive payment for it?
No.
I know many organizations do things like that.
It is hard though, because if you have children that are out of state.
Oh,
And you want to travel.
I get it.
at Christmas, I mean, that's kind of,
Well,
I mean. I don't know. I mean, we don't have that currently in our employee handbook, which you will be. Getting to review, but we have not put that in and I think that's kind of. For a small town, I think that's a little,
no, I'm just asking for policy and finding out how it works. Not every year, June 19th or Christmas or New Year's will automatically be a Thursday, but many years it'll be a Tuesday. And what's our feeling on funding those holidays?
well, we have, Tim approved Juneteenth a number 2 years ago. And so it gave them 13 holidays. And
I just don't want to see automatically 3 more holidays because of the day of the week it falls on.
no, I would not think
It's a small budget here.
right. And I would not to, I know that the banks do not give Juneteenth the next day off. They won't give the Friday off, but they'll just reopen. They'll be closed if that's what they're going to close. Christmas Day usually is the same thing. It's a very quiet day here on 26th. I can tell you that from this year.
Oh, I understand. Right.
But so do you have any further thoughts? Do you want to say anything?
Well, I don't think that, should automatically be a paid holiday.
No, I don't either. I just wanted to raise the point, what our policy is, and do we have a policy?
We do not have a policy that would be covered under the employee handbook, which once you see the draft, if there is something that you want to consider, but I think I am not familiar, and I can ask Pat, or Dale, how some of the other towns handle it.
And I'm asking mainly because I've been in that situation in the private sector before. So,
There's also probably a fairness issue too, I would think, because some people on the town payroll have to work that Friday.
of course.
It's actually very important for them to work that Friday. It's going to be a busy day for them. Whereas others,
Exactly.
there's no point in being in town hall because.
Right.
it's gonna be
So-
here. So
Maybe we could have a
so-
policy.
paid and one will
Well,
not
when
be paid.
So just so you know, that on snow days here
Mhm.
that are, Public Works Department gets a floater. If we close, they have a floater added to their schedule so that they can take a floating holiday on a day when we don't need them because they're out working.
I think it's a given that most of our employees understand what our holidays are here. I would like to put this off until we see the draft of the employee handbook. I mean, these holidays aren't going to change. What I'm would like to know is how the day after on days that follow, say on a Monday before a holiday or Friday after a holiday are handled.
Is there an immediate time concern with passing this?
We just need to have for New Year's Day, we need to be ready to do it. So we just need to put it out.
Okay, so.
Okay, so a couple weeks.
Just-
yeah, that's all.
We can do this. We can move it
And
off.
it doesn't mean anyone's losing a holiday. I'm just
No, no, no.
curious about how it's
How we
handled.
handle. Okay, so we can move this off and ask some questions. Okay. All right, so the next one is the rescheduling of the November 4th Board of Selectmen meeting because unfortunately, we've been booted out of this room and then because of rescheduling, and I think they're also using the mezzanine level that day. The only available space was the American Legion room. And I believe that someone else rescheduled before us.
The American, maybe the VFW.
So we are without a room and it's going to be possibly a little hectic here anyway. So maybe that's not. So we don't have a meeting scheduled again. And then of course we come into our issues with Veterans Day there as well. So if we skip the 4th, we cannot meet on the 11th and we are meeting on the 18th. And then our other option would be to add a meeting into the 25th,
Which is somewhere around Thanksgiving.
just before. Yep.
Yeah.
Or
We were
reschedule.
meeting- We were meeting just monthly in the previous administration.
I was going to say, can't we just not have that meeting
We
and
can certainly-
extend the meeting that we are scheduled for?
We can certainly do that for the 18th. And then, look, if we need an emergency meeting for something.
We're good at calling them.
We'll call
Correct.
one.
Okay.
Right?
Right.
So we'll cancel
So-
the 4th.
And reschedule as needed.
Right. So I don't think we have, do you want to vote on that? Let's vote on it. Just, I'll make
Yes.
a motion to cancel the November 4th meeting and we will reschedule it as a special meeting if needed in the month of November.
Okay.
Kind of a second.
I'll have a second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposition?
No.
Any abstentions?
Abstentions, no.
We're good. That motion passes. Okay, we have some appointments to positions. Is our next thing. So our first one is to appoint Jill Karenberg to the ADA committee. Jill is a member of our HR staff. She's not a town resident, but she is a town employee. And in the past, our ADA committee has been filled by people from town staff. And we've only had one resident in the years that people can remember that is offered to serve on this committee. But we certainly would be open to other people if they were willing to join forces with us. One of the, so right now, currently we have Amy Bonatti, Katie Balaka, and I think Jen Datum comes in as a consult when needed because she was the ADA coordinator. So Jill follows a lot of the laws that have to fit for our employees. So she said, I'd love to do it with them if you'd have me. So I don't have a problem with that, certainly because it could be open to other employees or to.
I have a question, not about Jill, but how, if an employee is on a committee and the meetings occur after town hall hours, are they compensated for their time?
Well, first of all,
Do they
these
charge?
meetings are called at 9 o'clock in the morning and they
Bingo.
meet twice a year
Okay, perfect.
at the current time, unless there's a special meeting.
Okay.
Okay, so can I have a motion to appoint Jill Karenberg to the ADA committee?
I'll make the motion to appoint Jill Karenberg to the ADA committee.
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Any abstentions? Motion passes. The next one is Matthew McKenzie, who was waited patiently throughout this entire meeting to be appointed to the Conservation Committee. And as I said, I received a very nice letter of endorsement for him to be placed on this commission. Can I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to appoint Matthew McKenzie to the Conservation Commission.
I will second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor of appointing Matthew McKenzie to the Conservation Committee signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any
Thank you.
opposed? None. Any abstentions? None. Motion passes. Congratulations, Matthew. You'll be getting an email from Katie Balaka tomorrow.
Thanks for volunteering.
All right. Next up is we have a request for Brady Wilcox.
I'm going to read over your shoulder, even though
Sure.
you sent it to us.
He, for the Halls Road Improvement Committee. Brady, was found, he is, hold on. He has done some corporate, he's an architect with project management, construction management and manufacturing, which they felt would be very helpful as they move forward. Believe he told me that, Dave Kelsey is the one who found him and recommended that he applied. So they would like to have him named to the Halls Road Committee.
I'll make a motion to nominate Brady Wilcox to the Halls Road Improvement Committee.
I'll second.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of appointing Brady Wilcox to the Halls Road Improvements Committee signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes. The next one is to appoint James Lampos, to the America 250 Committee. This is our first applicant for the America 250 Committee.
And he raised his hand and volunteered.
He did.
Wow.
That helps
Like-
me have to deal with that blower.
I'll make a motion to appoint Jim Lampos to the America 250 Committee.
I will second it. You can't vote.
Yes.
Aye.
pay no attention to.
All in favor?
You can't quit now either.
All in favor? Ayes.
Aye.
Any abstentions?
I abstain.
Okay. And then now we're down to our IMA discussion of,
Oh, God.
sorry, wait a minute. Initial discussion of some new ordinances that will be coming up. So just to give you basically a heads up on these ordinances. As you know, one of the ordinances that I was concerned about that it does cost us a lot of money is the election and meetings as far as advertising our legal notices from November 1st to May 1st. And various circulations in Hartford, New Britain and Springfield. Thank you.
Okay.
So Cheryl Poirier put together a nice survey monkey. We had 341 respondents as of September 10th. That was right before Cheryl went
Mhm.
away. So I did ask her for an update. But basically 196 of those are full-time residents, 136 are seasonal, 57 are from the Hartford County and 15 from Middlesex, 12 from Hamden. 217 read newspapers, print online. However, interestingly enough, they do not read many of the newspapers that we advertise in. So I would prefer not to be paying for advertisements.
Correct.
We do have 109 who read the New London Day, 88 who read the Hartford Courant. And we had 8 people say they read the Republican, which is one of the newspapers that and there's nobody. And then we talked about online articles. And so we have some people like 143 read Limelight, Connecticut Examiner or Patch. 138 say they get all their communication from their beach associations if there's a special meeting. And then 88 people say they read my newsletter and 92 get emails from town hall because they've signed up for the Notify Me. So I'm looking at this and I want you to start to consider this. A lot of people also use Facebook and their favorite pages seem to be Town of Old Limes, Old Lyme Emergency Management, the People of Old Lyme, Old Lyme Community, and again, Beach Association Facebook groups. So I am more than happy, to send you the, I asked for Cheryl for the updated, so I'm
Yeah,
happy to
I
send
would
it
like
to you.
that.
Yep.
Great.
And, but we're gonna think about that. And then Lynn, Philemon and I have been working on possibly a cat spay neuter ordinance. That, because there's such an abundance of cats that are
Okay.
not, and when they find them loose on the streets, this will help with the population. So we are working with that with some other towns that have done it, and we'll continue to get a draft of that together for you. And if there's any other ordinances that you'd like to be look at, I always think it's a good idea to go back, to make sure that we're updated as many as possible.
I think, we may want to stick a little spike in the ground about the noise camera possibility and,
What camera?
noise cameras, which are not
Okay.
legal according to the state.
Really?
We may want to revisit our noise ordinance. We may want to think about noise cameras, whether this is something the town wants to do or whether they find
No.
it
Okay.
appropriate.
Yeah, there wasn't in that I saw online about someone coming over and saying, I need you to stop doing yard work on a Saturday or Sunday because I'm outside. And we do not have rules about that. And you can certainly do your own yard work on the weekends if you need to. As long as I think it's before dusk, I think is what it goes. So
I know some towns in the state have noise ordinances regarding blowers.
okay.
And I happen to have a neighbor who likes to blow their leaves about 9 o'clock at night.
Okay. We can work on that if you'd like.
I close my windows, but
No,
I
but it's
also
always-
think you have cars that are, they
Yes.
have the backfire mufflers and you have,
Mhm.
or no mufflers at all.
Sound systems.
Sound systems. So I'm
Okay.
not sure, what the feelings are of the town public to address that.
Okay, might be worth looking at, right?
So before us is the IMA from the Oline Beach agreement between the Oline Beach Association, the town of Oline, and the city of New London. This is the latest and greatest. Brian Estep, the attorney for New London, said he wasn't sending a clean, it was requested we get a clean copy. He said he wasn't sending a clean copy until we approved, or Mike Carey approved the changes. We have gone through this.
Mhm.
And so this is, and the other beach associations, I believe all of them have approved at this point. So Mike has gone through it. I've gone through it. It is different than the one that that the IMA that New London has with East Lyme and Waterford. And I just received copies from the East Lyme one the other day for our files because I could not find it in the office. But that is this is what we have. And so
Go
there is, I know that there are people online. Katie, are you still online?
Yes,
Could you please unmute Doug Whalen and Scott Billinger so that they would have the opportunity to speak to this? I know they're both on.
I participated for
yeah,
17
Doug
years.
just unmuted
So when the
himself.
VA piloted the Armory project, a suicide for
Whoever has the news on
Louisiana gun shops, research investigator.
Doug,
Mute.
The number one thing that comes up all the country for firearm retail about for liability. The two set out to pioneer.
Can you hear
are
me
you
now?
there?
Yes, I am.
Better.
Can you hear me now?
Okay, yes, sorry, we were listening to the news with you as well. We,
Thank you. Sorry about that.
I had a feeling that you and Scott were both on because you might have something that you wanted to tell us about your time situation, et cetera.
Well, we do want to get the IMA signed as quickly as possible. All the beach associations have signed this IMA. I actually have the signatures in my hand right now. I'm waiting to get your approvals so we can get this thing going. I have talked to Carlos from DEP, and Carlos is just waiting for this IMA to be signed by everybody. He knows that all the beach associations signed it. We sent him our signed copies. He will release the ability to send out the shared infrastructure to go out to bid as soon as he knows that the IMA is okay and was signed by all the beach associations and the town of Old Lyme. And this is important because what we want to do is we want to try and get this moving forward. We're in a great opportunity right now where a lot of the prices are coming down on pipe for the sewer project. And, we're in a perfect opportunity to get this signed and possibly even get the award so we can have some kind of production for the shared infrastructure in the late winter, early spring of 2025. The reason for that is sort of important is because DOT has held off on the paving of 156. And the reason they held it off is for our project, but they're not going to hold it off too much longer. And there's a savings of approximately $1 million just by allowing DOT to hold off on this paving. So we'll save about $1 million just in paving costs because they held it up. So we just are asking you to consider this and make the approval as soon as possible. Carlos is ready to send our shared infrastructure out to bid because everything's ready to go. Thank you.
So Doug, you're saying he's sending out shared infrastructure, so that would be the pumping station and the trunk line and the dioxide station.
That is correct. Yes.
Okay.
And also for those three projects, I know we had gotten some information. It sounded like Kurt Mailman has worked with Eric Knapp and had resolved all the other issues that Eric had on the dioxide station. I thought the last email he was satisfied with the dioxide station submittal.
He is satisfied with the dioxide station submittal, but he is not satisfied with the pump station because there's a setback issue and they were still going around with that. There's some discussion of what is the ground floor. And when the ground floor was originally put in for a variance, it was that the ground floor was the first floor, not the actual ground floor on the ground. So,
right. And we did tell Kurt Mailman to go ahead and work that out with him and whatever Eric's satisfied to get it resolved, but he can get it resolved.
So
the only thing is, so if we had this approval today for the IMA, it's going to be at least another month because it has to go through the whole state system. But we're trying to get the bids out before November. That's all we're trying, sometime in November. That's what we're trying to do.
My concern is I see Jim had sent to Martha and myself a number of questions, as well as Frank Pappalardo on behalf of Soundview. You two are much more, Jim and Frank, your boots on the ground there. I am not. You have a better understanding. And I would like to hear your concerns, questions.
So I will tell you, unfortunately, I did push those over to Jack and Mike, and but unfortunately, my busy week last week, it went to my inbox outbox, but never got sent. So it was sent today.
Okay.
So those questions haven't, and Frank's questions just came in today.
I got,
So-
Friday, you were busy,
Right.
I understand. But
I am more than willing to forward Frank's concerns onto town council as well, if that is something that you so desire.
I feel if two people that live in the area who have worked on this for a long time have legitimate concerns and questions, we should have answers to those before I pass judgment.
Mhm.
The other thing was, and I don't know if this is out of order or not, Was there a recent meeting with Deep, or did Deep request a meeting with you or anyone else on the WPCA? And if so, what can we know about that?
We were supposed to have a meeting a few weeks ago with Carlos, but he canceled it. And then I did get a letter from Katie Dykes and Attorney General William Tong. I think Jim has a copy of it because somebody forwarded it to him, saying that we were not being very compliant. And
Okay,
so
and I haven't seen that.
I am meeting, well,
To be clear, that was to the private beach association.
Okay.
The town was not included in that letter
oh, I got a letter.
separately.
Yes.
Then you got it, but just you.
I don't know what the letter to the
Okay.
town beaches said, but I have a meeting with them tomorrow because I do feel that I'm being totally compliant. I'm not exactly sure who's telling them I'm not, but I called them and told them that I am dotting every I and crossing every T because this agreement stays with Old Line for the rest of eternity until we no longer pump sewage anywhere.
Understood.
This
And
affects people going forward for years. And as I said, hey, we're all new to this game, the three of us. But so we're coming up to speed. So
Well, if you'll bear with me for a little bit, because I want to be fair to Doug and to Scott and to Diane and the private beaches. And I want to be fair to the people of the town and people in town area B and Soundview. So I want to sort of outline my thoughts in total as much as I can. So that any critiques, questions, et cetera, aren't coming piecemeal, because I understand we have a time frame to deal with, and this should be done expediently. So I don't want, the CSA to come up and it's like, oh, and by the way, and by the way, and by the way. So I'm going to take a little extra time here to kind of lay out sort of broad concerns, because we're at a critical point in this project where agreements need to be signed with New London and the private beaches in terms of the cost sharing agreement in order to proceed with the bidding construction of sewers and beaches in the connection to Old Lime's treatment facility via force main through East Lyme and Waterford. And today we learned from Doug that actually signing the IMA triggers the actual bidding of the cost sharing of the shared infrastructure. And so there's no turning back at that point. So once signed, these agreements recommit Soundview and Town Area B to a regional sewer project that an overwhelming number of Soundview residents oppose. I'm also acutely aware that this has been a hurry up and sign this, or there's no discussion to be had that train us up the station situation for the last decade. Many of the issues we face today are a result of not fully vetting the scope and scale of this project and clearly communicating the terms and potential impact on residents from the start. Old Lyme WPCA was formed in the 1990s for the purpose of sewer avoidance. A little over 10 years ago, we had a solution to the sewer issue in the form of an off-site treatment facility at Cherry Stones. The solution would have been expensive, but it received the unanimous support from residents of Soundview. As an FAQ currently found on the WPCA's website notes, quote, although costs were initially similar and the initial site that was tested yielded positive results, proximity of the site to existing drinking water wells and the cost and time needed to either relocate those wells to allow the use of the tested site or to perform additional testing in secondary sites would have negatively impacted the schedule for a unified approach between the town and chartered beaches towards solving the collective coastal wastewater management problems in Old Lyme, unquote. Now, because of this perceived necessity of, quote, not negatively impacting the schedule, unquote, the first public meeting held by the WPCA after Deep's critique of the offsite system was not a forum for discussion. It was instead a directive issued to Soundview residents that they would be part of the sewer project connecting to New London. Alternatives are not on the table. Questions and contrary opinions were dismissed. This is presented as a mandate by the WPCA. And now, a decade later, we're again in the position of not negatively impacting the schedule and told we must make haste in signing these agreements. The New London agreement, the least problematic of the three to which we will need to be party, was presented to us in its final form just a week ago. The cost sharing agreement is still being significantly revised as we speak. It contains provisions that are detrimental to the town. It also hands complete control of this project from design to bidding to construction and administration to 4 people. one representative from each private beach association, and one from the town's WPCA. While the impacted residents of Soundview and Town Area B naturally have no representation in the private beach associations, the residents of the private beach associations do have representation on the town's WPCA, as do all residents of the town whether they have a financial stake in this project or not. Thus, the votes of Soundview residents are marginalized twice. The PBAs will choose their 3 representatives, and as town residents at large will have a say in the 4th representative. These 4 chosen will have 100% control over this project going forward. The potential consequences are evident already in aspects of the shared design, which is at 90% completion. While the design phase has been in process for years, the 90% design was completed in July of this year. The plans are not subject to review until 2 weeks ago. The pump station and forced main, which were slated for the town parking lot and commercially zoned Hartford Avenue, had been moved to the narrow residential street that is Portland Avenue some time ago. All along, we've been promised the pump station would fit in with the architecture of the neighborhood and the design would be vetted for aesthetics. This is a promise that's still found on the WPCA's website. It's no wonder there was a reluctance to share this plan. At 33 feet tall, the pump station, as designed, will be the neighborhood's landmark. And is one that will cement the beach's reputation as a place that doesn't matter, its residents and its visitors don't count. Architecture is important. Good design is no more expensive than bad. The design is hideous, and it instantly telegraphs no one cares. Had Soundview and Town Area B residents been drawn collaboratively into this discussion of design from the start, and other considerations of this project, the animosity that has grown towards this project may not have been as dire. If we are to move forward in this project, we must do so together. I've made my opinion clear that I don't think connecting to London is a good idea. For instance, East Line is already at capacity, and we see in the New London Day, they reported this only 2 weeks ago. But still, I'm keeping an open mind, and I realize that this may be a necessity at this point. The last thing I want to do is derail a project just to prove a point. I don't want to further do any harm to the neighborhood in which I've invested my life. I've built my home in Soundview and committed to its welfare. I've raised my family there. It's a wonderful neighborhood whose residents are still referred to as those people down there. And I've heard that in meetings from people who hold town office. No one has worked harder than my Soundview neighbors to protect that beach, to care for the area, and to improve its reputation. We've been held back for 40 years over this sewer question that it began in the 1980s. It's hung over our heads, it's impeded development, it's encouraged blight, while we've stayed in this holding pattern. While I don't want to unnecessarily stand in the way of a project that may finally resolve this issue, I can't support a project with unspecified costs, unvetted design, unanswered questions as to how costs will be shared, how percentages will be determined, and what those costs are. In terms of moving forward, we'll do this together or we'll not do it at all. My immediate concern with signing the New London IMA is that it is intertwined with a far more problematic CSA. Its approval will set us on a track where CSA approval and bidding will become even more immediately imperative. Thus, while we can discuss the specifics of the New London IMA and most likely reach a quick agreement on it, I would not want to see it signed without a full and rigorous discussion of the CSA. Approval of the two should happen together, as they are both necessary. I thought they were both necessary for initiation of the bidding process, but apparently not. Apparently we can plunge forward and bid, even though we don't have a CSA before us. Signing one will only put further pressure on us to hastily sign the other, and it's a far more problematic document. Now, I've already outlined 4 issues that I have, 5 or 6 issues actually that I have with the New London IMA. None of them are deal breakers, but they need answers. So without taking more time here in this meeting, we will get answers from Mike Carrot. So in conclusion, I'd welcome a forum with legal counsel whereby we could vet issues with both the IMA and the CSA in tandem, and a forum with Fuss and O'Neill where pump station design is discussed. There are also areas of historic and prehistoric interest that have been outlined on the Woodward and Curran plan that are not reflected in Fuss and O'Neill. Like East Lyme, I wouldn't suspect these areas would delay the project construction, but the report that Woodward and Curran used to delineate these areas should be made available to us so a town historian may be on call to document findings if necessary.
Thank you. For that, So
I expect that'll go into the meeting minutes.
it will
Thank you.
this time. So
Yeah.
pardon?
she'll
I
give
will
it
put
to
it, I'll add it as an addendum. I'll add that in full. Do you have an extra copy for Elizabeth? Because she's was feverishly writing. So, no, I'll add it. Add it. So. I will say that I was surprised that I was welcome to go to New London to try to reopen negotiations back in the winter with Barry Weiner. As a old New London girl we had some common friends. I was welcome to come in and speak, and Scott Bullinger and I went one day, and then another day we had Steve Tsunami and join us as well to open up, to start the agreements to get this IMA going again. I received a letter from Barry later to say, hey, I think we're going to be able to go forward with something, and we'll be getting you a copy of the IMA. And you know what? Never got a copy of the IMA from New London. The IMA was sent directly to someone else or to multiple other people. And then I didn't even find out that they were working on it until I think Steve mentioned it to me. Not that in the late summer. I said, yeah, I've never received a copy of a draft of what it was. So I did not, was not aware. And I understand that the beach associations were using someone who has legal contract experience, but that person does not speak for the town of Old Lyme. They do not represent the town of Old Lyme. They represent evidently the 3 private beach associations. So then Mike Carey got called in by Steve Tsunami, and they had some discussions. And when Mike brought up some concerns initially, it was told that Brian would not change anything in the IMA that Mike had concerns with. And then after a few more pushes, then we got a few language changes, which has improved it. I still don't understand why it doesn't match what East Lyme and Waterford have with London, because I know that we're different ballpark because we're private beach associations plus part of the town, but it seems to me it's the same deal. We're sending sewerage through a pump station in East Lyme and in Waterford. And I just sort of feel like, since I have to sign off on a lot of documents and as a representative of this town, that it would have been courteous to include me or our council in discussions, because although we have our own WPCA, which do a wonderful job working this project out, as far as the legal entities, it is the town that is responsible for it. So, I'm not saying I don't want to sign it. But I do think Jim's questions need to be answered. And if any of Jude's have to be answered, because perhaps Mr. Estep has to make a few more word changes on our behalf as the town, not because we have some concerns. And then the beach associations will have to see if they agree to it. But I think that one of the things that I have said through the last year is the residents of Old Colony, Lyme Shores, and Miami are the residents of Old Lyme too. And there's plenty of them who have been coming into my office to say, I don't really like this idea, and I'm not so sure I like this whole plan. I'm not sure they're being heard by their beach communities, but they do want a voice, and that's fine. And like I said, everybody's a resident of this town. and we are representing all the residents, not just Sound View, 3 streets in this, because come down the pike, we all know that if something goes wrong, it's not going to be just those number of streets. It's going to become a topic of concern for this office, whoever's in it going forward. So 10 years from now, three of us are setting the stage for whoever's in office when a pump station breaks down and there's a backup or there's a problem. So I'll let you know how my meeting goes tomorrow with Deep. I will make sure that Jim's questions get answered. I do ask that once we get satisfactory responses to 3 of us, that I would ask that all 3 of us would come together for an emergency meeting as quickly as possible to agree to sign this if we feel that it is in the right place at that time.
Given new information from Doug today, can we fold the discussion of the CSA into that as well? Can
The CSA is still in discussion form and it does not need to be signed in the same pace. And I would prefer that you are looking at that separately then, because that's really cost sharing. That's a within town thing. This is outside involving other towns.
Unfortunately, from what Doug says, if we do sign the IMA, we're committed to this project. And at that point, the town would have almost no leverage in how the CSA is determined. Will be, the project will go out to bid. Construction will begin with a lot of unanswered questions.
Well, the CSA would still have to be signed. There are aspects that they would not let us go forward. I am quite sure, and I can ask that question tomorrow, but I don't think they would allow us to accept bids unless the cost share agreement was signed.
That is true. That is true.
That they're not going to let us commit to anything. This IMA at least says that we're not really paying anything until sewage begins to flow. But
I'm just very concerned about, we've gone out to bid. The bids will have whatever the period of time is, 180 days, whatever, where we'd have to accept it or not. And we would be under tremendous pressure to sign as is on the CSA. Whereas if at this point, if we just say, hold on, let's get an agreement, let's think the entire thing through. And even if we don't agree 100%, we can have a lot of aspects of the project that we don't have answers to at all. That hasn't been thought through. And if we can think these things through, have a framework, at least we don't need to sign the CSA necessarily, but these can be brought to the table. So it's not, a drip as we go through of, this and that we know what these issues are going in. That would be my own concern with signing the IMA ahead of having any kind of discussion with the CSA.
the other issue that we did have taken out of the CSA is that their billing portions will be done by this will be a town WPCA that we will recreate, and the billing will be done from here because this is a constant. Town hall is going to stay. We're not going to start some small community WPCA to bill the people in those 4 areas separately.
So are you saying that'll be an added staff to the town of Old Lyme?
No,
Or
it will be paid through with the cost
but
shared.
will the town hall hire that employee, or will the WPCAs hire that person, but their office will operate within the confines of the town hall?
We would most likely have to redo our ordinance for our WPCA, which we have to do anyways, because by the way, it doesn't give them any guidance to do anything with sewers.
Right.
It says that we're sewer avoidance
Right.
and only to deal with septic. So they've been basically operating over the last number of years with an incorrect ordinance.
Okay.
So my understanding from our attorney, the best bet would be to go ahead and design a WPCA with 2 members of each of the beach associations and 2 members from Sound View,
Okay.
because they are the ones that are going to be using the system
Correct.
to sit as a board overseeing the WPCA. So we would have to redesign our ordinance and state it in fact. And if we had to have a secondary, I mean, as you know, our meeting on August 28th, you were here, and I know there was discussions, there were comments made by Natel that, well, what if in the end they add Hawks Nest and White Sands?
Right.
And my comment back to her was, if you're adding White Sands and Hawks Nest in to this project in 2 years, you need to tell me now.
Of course.
And not only that, but the DOT just paved 156, and why would you let them do that? Because now it's state money that you're using improperly to
Well-
pave it. They could have stopped it at White Sands.
Well, let's hope you get some answers in your meeting tomorrow.
Yep.
Well, even
Clarifications.
speaking strictly to the IMA, New London IMA specifically states that New London can deny expansion of the system based on their capacity.
Right.
But we have 130,000 gallon per day reserve capacity that we're contracting to. And New London stipulates that we can't deny another community
I read that.
access
Yes.
to that.
Yep.
Without reasonable cost. So not even just talking about Hawks Nest, but suppose someone wants to build a very large housing project in a large tract of land that has a close enough proximity to the
Absolutely.
sewer system.
They can't be
The
denied.
way this IMA is written, we don't really have much recourse. We have to tell them, sure. And then how is that going to be paid for?
But it does have
Who's
to
going to pay for
fit
that
our
too?
zoning regulations. It would have to fit our zoning regulations.
Not necessarily if it's an
That's
830G.
830G does not have to fit
Fly right
zoning.
over it.
Hmm.
They get to make their own rules.
And even if we say, well, that's fine, we need, you need to do this, fine. You need affordable sewer, whatever. Who's going to pay for that additional shared infrastructure? Is that going to fall on the town?
For the users.
What's it going to do for the people who are already paying for the system to be built? There's a lot of questions to answer if we're going to be obligated to expanding the system based on this IMA.
And Carlos continues to tell us that they have plenty of capacity, and yet New London says they're almost at capacity.
They tell us New London has capacity. That's never been the question. The question is East Lyme. And it's right in the New London Day 2 weeks ago that they're at capacity. In fact, they're over capacity based on what they've already agreed to. They're looking at expanding capacity, and we're going to pay for a portion of that through our capital costs. And that's why it's important to look at East Lyme IMA as well, because we'll be on the hook for that as well.
So I expect that we'll get information or feedback tomorrow.
You got it. And then we will table this and we will meet as quickly as possible once we get our answers. And I am happy to summarize what we meet. Yes.
Comment on the screen.
Construction will not start until all are signed,
Keep going.
and no, we will not. Scott,
This is Scott. Well, I'm saying, Jim, unfortunately, we only own our capacity with New London. Any expansion with New London would have nothing to do with us. We only pay or responsible for our use of our capacity.
Capital cost.
East Lyme's capacity is with New London or within the Tri-Town agreement, has nothing to do with our agreement with New London.
The New London agreement, I agree, does have a sentence in there that we will not be responsible if they need to expand their capacity or their system. The East Lyme agreement, from what I've seen that the 3 private beach associations have signed, and that the town is a party to, from what I understand, although we still can't seem to put our finger on the actual document.
I have it. It's fine.
The East Lyme one obligates us to a percentage of their capital costs yearly. And it doesn't have that stipulation that if they need to expand the system. In fact, it appears to be that we will be on the hook for any expansions, as they specifically state that we'll be on the hook for the upgrades of their pump stations. So that's the one I'm concerned more with East Lyme than I am with New London, Scott.
Okay.
Okay. So we'll push for those answers. I'll do my best for tomorrow. And it is, we have time for Selectmen's general discussion, which is next on our agenda.
Do you want to go first, Jim, or shall I?
I think I said enough.
Okay. I have just a few items. One is, I think I read that a solar company solicitor permit has been issued, and I thought we voted that down, even though it may have been revised.
No. We pay, they paid.
Right, but I
For
thought we
whatever.
had talked about whether or not we wanted people going door to door or not.
We asked what you thought about it, but we cannot deny it. We have
Okay.
looked at Connecticut general statutes. You cannot deny them.
Okay,
So basically what we do is we pay. Hello?
I'm online with it. Not on the
Okay.
agenda. They added it to the agenda when they started the meeting.
Doug, you
Yeah.
might want to mute yourself.
And we're
Doug?
got a lot of bullshit. Jim
Doug.
Lamppost doesn't like the agreement and doesn't want.
come on.
I'm
says that,
afraid
you know,
to
there's all
mute him
kinds
in
of
case he wants to come back in.
So
He's not,
supposedly
he's
they're gonna-
talking on the phone with someone. So just turn him off. He's
There
muted.
you go.
Specify
Yeah.
non-humorous.
I didn't realize that we could not
We can't
Okay.
deny them. We can
Restrict,
restrict,
modify. Okay,
modify.
I
So we
wanted to-
have, but, and I did talk to him because
Yep.
I had heard he was a little aggressive at a couple of doors.
yeah.
So I did tell him that I was not exactly pleased. And if I'd heard more complaints like that, I was calling Trinity Solar.
I'd like to see added to a future agenda, a topic of discussion, graffiti on
Oh.
our,
Yes.
thank you.
Would you like an ordinance?
I don't know. I think we should have a discussion before an ordinance. From one of our recent meetings regarding the Emergency Operations Center, we were awaiting feedback from town council. Has there been any feedback?
Eric Callahan has reviewed the contract and sent it back to us last week. Dave has reviewed it with his questions and sent it back to Eric. I reviewed it as much as I could last week. And it's gone back to Eric now, and Eric's supposed to get back to us in a day or two. With that approval, then Newfield called today to say, are you guys good with it? And I said, no, there's a few things you've got to switch.
Okay,
So once those
so
are
we-
switched.
Will we be made aware of whatever the items are that switched, or what the status of is? Because we voted on it contingent on
Approval from
approval
council.
from council.
So once Eric's approves, then
Okay.
I would sign, and I can.
Let
you
us
would
know
like
if that
a million
happens.
pages and
No.
emails you, I'll do it.
We already get a million.
All right.
Another item I had was I was contacted by someone from our community, Diana Prince, and she had given me some information on a organization called Community Heart and Soul. And it's a program that helps to facilitate grant approvals through an organization for working with small towns. And I'd like to share that with you and Jim. Should I send that to you via an email or a link? Because I think it might be helpful while we're working on Halls Road improvement.
And she's actually coming. She made an appointment to just come and see
Good.
me. So
I spent 2 hours with her last week.
Great.
So,
Perfect.
Okay. And the last item on my list is this. I'd like to know whether you know of, and if it's continuing, the investigation to the EMT who left our employment earlier this spring.
The last update I had is that there were interviews done by the state troopers, and now it's going to, I believe it goes to this court to decide if they're doing anything with it. That's the last I knew.
And that's the end of my list. Thank you.
Thank you also, just on my list of things, thank you to the group of people that, there were 4 or 5 people that went out and painted some graffiti over, and we appreciate that. We did do some homework just to make sure that nobody could be arrested. And as long as it's not there to do, that you're not
Defacing?
defacing or causing harm, it is not a problem. So I see it as helpful and I appreciate it. Because Ed would have eventually taking it on his own, but, whatever. And I also need you to know that one of our employees of the past, 5 years, George Martin, is notified us today that he is leaving us from Public Works. And he is going to, Region 4 has hired him. So he's leaving us. So we are going to be advertising for a maintainer 3 as well. And actually, I did like to bring, we have another person put on leave. So I'd like to, so I've told Ed, I said, I think we should try to find 2. This town is 61 miles of roads. It's a lot to do with 4 or 5 people. It's really, more and more things are cropping up.
Yep.
I had phone calls today about some trees. And they said, tree commission's got to get on this because there are dead trees that are sitting next to wires. They've got to come down. Ed has already told Board of Finance that his budget for trees removal will increase this year because Eversource isn't taking down the trees. So we need to be concerned about the safety of our people too. So we take them as we can. Anything else from you on subject? No?
I'm all set.
You're gonna be quiet now?
I'm gonna be quiet now.
Okay.
Done enough.
Till the next special meeting.
Okay, so I need a motion to adjourn
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
at 7:31. Thank you very much. All in favor of adjournment?
I sent you a text.
Bye.
on-